Ah, we're live. Hello, everyone. Um, this is different. We're on YouTube this time, and I have no idea whether it's working or not, but I'm just going to go off and do our thing. So, welcome, everyone. Oh, yes, lots of comments appearing on the comments list, so that's great. At least you must be receiving me. Good. So, what are we going to do today? I'm going to flip over to the and put my ugly mug back on the screen. Um, and I'm going to refer to my notes. Here we go. This is all a bit of a multitasking thing for me today, so because I'm flipping between the camera and some slides and a few photos and bits and bobs. So I'm just getting my head around how you do all that, multitasking whilst speaking. Normally, as a man, I find multitasking rather difficult, but I'm going to give it a go, so bear with me. We'll see what we can do. So the feedback from the last Staying in Touch session was very positive, and thank you for your feedback. So we decided we're going to do more, and one of the elements of that is I decided I think we should do this weekly, right? So let's just stay in touch, keep our spirits up. We may not have a lot to talk about photographically, but at least it's a way of talking to you guys and keeping in touch. So that's what we're going to do. So every Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. on this channel, I'm going to do 20 or 30 minutes, and it might be relevant, it might be rubbish, but at least watching me struggle with the technology, which is unusual for me, will give you some amusement. The technology is interesting because, as you well know, I'm into lots of different technology, but video and video production and all that kind of stuff is something I've never really got into before. So I'm having to learn all that on the fly. So that's interesting for me, gives me something to do, stops me going mad, and gives you a little bit of entertainment perhaps when you see me fluff it all up. So let's give it a go. We're trying YouTube this time as a channel to reach you. I hope that that's working for you. We used Facebook last time, we're using YouTube this time, and we might try something like Zoom next time. A little bit of controversy about Zoom in the news at the moment about its security. I'm a little bit looser about things. Yeah, maybe the Prime Minister shouldn't be using Zoom for cabinet meetings, but for the kind of content we're doing, if we get people tuning in who shouldn't be tuning in, right now I'm not too bothered about that. So I'll make a decision later on in the week as to whether we're going to go with Zoom or not. There are some advantages in that you'll be able to see each other and talk to each other live by video all at the same time. And I can stop you talking because I have control. So that should be fun. But anyway, we'll see how we go on that. And then once we've done those three different platforms, I think then we'll make a decision as to what one we stick with. Because rather than you having to know where I'm going to be each week, it'd be easier if I'm in the same place every time. So same time, same channel kind of thing, So we'll settle on one and try and stick with that for the duration. So I'd appreciate your feedback on what you think about YouTube versus Facebook, and then we'll go forward. Whilst we're talking about this, we're going to do this every week. I may run out of things to say. have you got anything to say? Do you want to do a session? Do you want to do a live stream like I'm doing right now? We can either do it as a twosome if you like, and a Zoom platform gives us that capability in that I can be the host of the meeting and then you can be a speaker at the meeting, so I can bring you in and take you out, stuff like that. You can share your screen if you want to show something on your screen. Think about it. If you fancy having a crack at this, then by all means get in touch with me by email, and as long as it's going to be something photographic and interest to other members, then I'm up for it. So you let me know. Just have a quick look at the comments. Yeah, it's all going. People are saying it's better than Facebook. Interesting. So, yep, keep all those comments coming. So that's good. Let me move to the next page of my notes here. Oh, yeah. Things to do. We're all pretty stir crazy, I guess, at the moment. So what things can we do to keep occupied? There are a few things coming up on the calendar. Now, obviously, things are all on hold at the moment, but we're assuming, fingers crossed, that by the summer or end of June, maybe July, things will be getting back to normal. Therefore, right now, Thatcham Town Council are planning events for later in the year. We as a club will be participating in those events, so I thought I'd just give you a little reminder of those. The Family Fun Day that was cancelled has been rescheduled for the 31st of August. If you want to write that date down, great, thank you. Put it in your diary. We'll be looking for tombola prizes and volunteers on the day. I'm just giving you a heads up now, something to look forward to. Maybe you're not looking forward to that, but anyway, it's a date, something to work towards if you want to get involved in that. I'll write all this stuff to you later on as the months go on, as we get closer to these things, but just for now I'm just putting a few markers down. Thatcham Festival in October, where you may want to start thinking about the photos that you're going to need for that, because as you know, we do the big exhibition in the Bluecoat School. You need photos for that. So maybe start thinking about what photos you want to choose and exhibit at that time. So give that some thought, something you can do. Trawl through your libraries and give that some thought. We'll also be running the mix and match competition with another local club. You might want to start trawling through your library to figure out what photos could be useful for that. And we also set the challenge earlier in the year. You may have forgotten now, it was a while ago, but we did set the challenge for you to capture photographs of the Kennet and Avon Canal so that we can put those into a collage in time for the Thatcham Festival in October. So again, if you are doing your daily walkabout exercise on your own, then take your camera, go down the canal maybe, and take a few photos down there perhaps. You could start building that catalogue now. So there's a few things to do. The other thing is I need your help. When I look through the Facebook video that I shot last week, I really noticed how many ums and ahs I do when I'm speaking on camera. Please count them and let me know, will you? I'm going to try and reduce the number of ums and ahs I put into this stream, but I need your help. You start counting for me, let me know. You can do that in the live stream if you want, or if you want to do it by email, then do that, please. Very embarrassing. So let's move on to the project boat, shall we? So let me flick over to you get to see my ugly face again. First I'm going to take a drink. This is not red wine. Honest, it's Ribena. Taking close-up photos. I thought it would be useful if I just spent a few minutes going through what that means. Firstly, a lot of people wonder, what's the difference between a close-up photo and a macro photo? Now, I'll give you the technical description. You can make up your own mind as to whether the photos you take are macro or close-up, but there is a technical description. And a macro image, a close-up is a close-up, right? You're getting in close to the subject. You could take a portrait of someone and get in quite close to their face and maybe only have a portion of their face showing in the picture. That's a close-up picture, but it's not a macro picture. A macro is getting even closer still, and the way that it's defined is how big is the image on the sensor versus the real life subject. So what's the ratio between the real life subject and how big it's appearing on the sensor on the back of your camera? And you can think about that. If you're taking a picture of, say, a tree can be many meters tall, but the image appears on the sensor in the back of your camera can only be a few millimeters high. So from a tree several meters tall, the image on the sensor inside your camera is measured in millimeters, not meters. So the ratio is probably 1,000 to 1 between what's real and what's actually on the back of the sensor. A macro image is where the ratio is 1 to 1 or more. And what I mean by that is, if the object is 5 centimeters tall, the image on the back of your camera in the sensor is 5 millimeters tall. It's a 1 to 1 relationship. Now you can go closer than that, so that something that's 10 millimeters tall in real life could fill the frame of your camera, be 20 millimeters tall if you're on a full frame camera, or even more. And you could actually go up to a 10 to 1 ratio, where the image on the back of the camera is actually 10 times real life. Now you're into taking pictures of the eye of a fly or the stamen of a flower. That's when you're in that kind of range. And that's what macro is. So just to help you there understand the difference, don't get too hung up on the technicalities. All I'm trying to say is, for the category of the project vote that we're going to run, it's close up. That can mean anything from the close-up portrait of someone where only part of their face is on the image to the eye of a fly. You do what you want to do. It can be a close-up, it can be a macro, whatever you want to photograph, you go ahead and do it, and that will be quite relevant and appropriate for the category that we've put in place here. Yeah? So, some thoughts about taking close-up photographs. There's something that you need to understand about the lens of your camera, and that is that the lens of your camera focuses on the subject, but all lenses have a minimum focus distance. And what that means is that you can only get so close to something and the lens can focus the image for you. Now what you could do is, if you want to get closer than the minimum distance that your lens has, on my lens, the camera behind me, that lens, the minimum distance is probably about 30 centimeters, maybe 25 centimeters. So getting closer than that is a problem because the lens won't focus. So what could I do? Well, I could take the picture at the closest distance I can to get it in focus, and then I could crop the picture on the computer afterwards. So I could take some of the picture out and make it appear to be a bit larger. So I could do that. And that's a very valid thing, especially now with modern cameras where there's lots of megabytes that you've got to take the picture. Even cropping it, you still end up with a pretty high resolution photograph. But obviously just be aware that if you go too far, you'll end up with a low resolution photograph. So be careful how far you go, but cropping is a very valid way and a very cheap way to get in close to an image with a standard lens. You could up the cost a little bit and do some things with your camera. And one very interesting way, and I know Colin in the club, he's done this with his camera for some of his macro shots. You can have a reversing ring on your camera. And what that means is you take the lens off, you put an adapter on the camera, and then you turn the lens around. You put it backwards on the camera. So the front of the lens is now connected close up to the camera. The bit that normally goes inside the camera is now sticking out, and that's what you take the picture with. And if you don't believe me that that works, take the lens off your camera, turn it round that way, and start looking at things close up. You'll see it actually does work. So a reversing ring has to be the right one for your camera, but you can use that reversing ring to reverse mount your lens and then take some close-up pictures. Another way is to use something called an extension tube. And what that does is it takes your standard lens and just puts it a bit further away from the camera on the end of a tube, and that gets the focus in the right position for the sensor. So those are medium price solutions compared with just cropping. If you really want to go further and spend a bit more money, then you can get yourself a macro lens. And really what happens inside a macro lens is it shifts the lenses around inside to get them into the right zone so that the focus is where you want it, so you can get right close up to the subjects. So have a quick look at the comments again, just make sure I'm not losing you. Sorry Paul, you got held up at the level crossing. Never mind, don't worry. We're not actually in the football club, we're at home, so I presume that's a joke, but there we are. Oh yes, Paul actually says he's got wine in his hands and no driving, so there you go. Okay, so we talked about the lenses and what the difference is between macro and close-up. The other thing to note about the images that you take for your close-up or macro is get it sharp. It's got to be in focus, guys. It's really got to be sharp. It's got to pop. Now, you need to choose your focal point very carefully, and because you're very close, your depth of field is going to be very, very shallow. So where you're focusing and what you choose to make in focus and what is going to be out of focus is going to be critical. So you might need to experiment with your aperture. You might need to experiment with how much lighting you've got so that you've got a bit more movement on the aperture, you've got a bit more choice. You want to eliminate any motion blur, so if it's say a flower in the garden, the wind is going to blow that leaf or that petal, and you don't want motion blur on your image. So you've either got to shield it from the wind or you've got to up the shutter speed to eliminate the motion blur. So if you're experimenting with aperture to get depth of field, you're upping the shutter speed to eliminate motion blur. You may have to push the ISO of your camera up a bit as well. So you might be going out of your comfort zone on a lot of things here. But it's worth having a go. Just have a crack at it and see what you get. You know, you're not going to learn anything unless you have a go at these things. So do give it a go. Okay, so that's probably enough of that. And if I haven't confused you completely, you might just be plain old bemused. So one way or the other, just go out there on your own and take some pictures, close-up pictures, or set up a little desktop studio and do it on the desk inside the house if you want to. Yep, thanks Andrew. Shallow depth of field with a macro lens. Yeah, you really will. Cool, okay, so now I'm going to switch to the live stream again. Back. There we go. Okay, so as I said earlier on, let me know what you think of tonight. I added images and a few slides to the chat. It's not just me on camera. Let me know what you think of that and whether that's something we should do more of. Makes it a bit more like a meeting perhaps. I'd also like your opinions on the whole Zoom thing. It means you're going to have to install a little bit of software on your device. There's software available for Windows machines, Mac machines, Apple phones and iPads, as well as Android devices. So you shouldn't have any problems finding software that will work. And the way that it does work is if I send you a meeting notice, when you first click on the link to join the meeting, if you don't have the software, it will prompt you to say we need the software, and it will download it for you and install it. So I've had to play with this a few times now. It is pretty easy to do, but it is something new to do. Now, if you think that that's a bridge too far, the main advantage of doing it is that we can all see each other and we can all talk to each other, we can all join in. If there's 20 of us on the call, there'll be 20 little thumbnails of videos of us all on the screen at the same time. If you're on a mobile phone, you can flip from one screen full of people to another. If that's something you want to do, great. If you think that's useless and you'd rather stick with this format, let me know. One way or the other, tell me, right? I don't want to do this in a bubble on my own. You tell me what you want and what you think works, what you're comfortable with, and I'll try and do what I can to find a middle line and satisfy as many of you as I can. The next call is going to be on Wednesday the 8th of April, that's a week tonight, at 7:30 p.m. again, UK time. But I'm saying UK time because I did invite a few of my friends from America to join. I don't know if they have or not, but if they did, hi. And it's afternoon for you guys, mid-afternoon. So thank you for joining. What else have we got? I see ums, yeah? I just caught myself saying there. Yeah, so with regards to the next call, if the consensus is that you want to give Zoom a go, I'll send you an email with instructions on what to do, and you just follow those and you'll join up. And I'll try and maybe set up a dummy or a test meeting so that you can get the software and everything working. The other thing to say about that is, although it sounds complicated, lots of people on the screen at once, all talking at once, the software itself is very simple on the screen, very easy to operate. So it's not as scary as it sounds, perhaps. Again, you let me know what you think. And with that, I think I've probably run out of things to say. What's the time? 8 o'clock. So we've been going for half an hour. And I said 20 to 30 minutes. And that's exactly what it is. So I'm going to say ta-ta, keep safe, look after yourselves, take some photos, please, and let me have them. And I'll see you all soon. Thanks a lot. Bye now.